Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Friday and Career Coach Office Hours. It is, excuse me, July 15th, 2021, and welcome. I take time on Tuesdays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern to answer questions from job hunters, people who need advice about their careers, and it could be around a job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, or some workplace related issue. And I try and make it easier for them. And if you've got a question for me, if you happen to be around today, you can put it into chat and I'll try and answer it today. And you can also send it to me through LinkedIn messaging. My page there is linkedin.com/IN/ the big game hunter. Mention that you saw the video in some form and where. I like knowing I'm helping some folks. And in doing so, it makes me feel good. I put a lot of effort into sharing information with people, and I don't ask for much in return, so be nice to me too. Okay. Sorry, I'm being playful today. And I'll just remind you that my website, thebiggamehunter.us, is a place where you can schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session. Visit my blog, which has more than 12,000 searchable posts about, again, job search, hiring, management, leadership, career change, dealing with workplace issues. There's a lot there. Plus, you can find out about my courses that you can rent or buy, my books and guides. Like I said, a lot there to help you. Also, I've got a YouTube channel at jobsearchtv.com. And at the site on YouTube, there's more than 7,000 videos. They're also on my website, by the way, but sometimes people prefer YouTube. You can download the Job Search TV app on Amazon and watch it on your big screen set and see my pretty face large. Lastly, you can subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio, which is number one in Apple Podcasts for job search. 2,400 plus episodes over more than 11 years. No show is close to that in terms of numbers of episodes. It has been nicknamed the OG in the job search space. I can understand. It's been on for 11 and a half years now. So I've got a lot of questions today. And again, put yours into chat and I'll try and tackle it today as well. I usually do. I interrupt the flow of questions I have for people who are here live to make sure that you're helped. And thus, the first question is, when asked, what job are you applying for? What would your answer be? Like, I usually answer it by some polite but business-like questions such as, I'm responding to this advertisement. However, I'd like to hear about other openings your business apparently has available. Um, you're okay. Uh, here's the simplest thing. Talk to them directly. See, I'm a believer that when you're interviewing or you're being contacted by a firm, the first thing you want to do is have a human connection with the person there. And thus, you're right to acknowledge the position that you saw and say, I forwarded the resume regarding the such and such role. And if you see something that you think would be a better fit, don't hesitate. But this is the job I saw that prompted me to contact you. Now, I think it's surprising that they didn't acknowledge the position that you responded to, because after all, normally there's a linkage between the job ad and your resume. When the resume goes into the applicant tracking system, is emailed to them, there's some indicator where it came from that would tell them what it is. And thus, like I said, it's a little surprising that they start off at this question. Maybe it's a little bit of a test for you in an effort to see, whether or not you remember, because some people are unprepared. But I would just simply say, I saw this post for such and such where it spoke about such and such type of background. But if you think there's something I'd be a better fit for, let's talk about that Or let's talk about that too. I'd be very happy to discuss it with you. Notice my tone of voice, casual. Casual is a big part of this because when you sound nervous or tense, it makes them anxious too. When they're anxious, they can't feel you in a good way. Part of the connection is for them to get a feel for you as a person. And I don't think being the anxious candidate, the anxious job hunter, the anxious person is a good look for you. So we're going to go on to the next one. When hiring, what are you supposed to not worry about? Okay. What you're not supposed to worry about is whether there's someone out there who can fit your job. Because it's a big world and someone is qualified to do what you need them to do. The question comes down to is how will you recognize them if they appear? What will you do to evaluate someone to make sure that they can do this job and are competent to do this job? And then you can get them to do this job for you. But the question is about what not to worry about. Somewhere in the world, there is a person qualified to do this job who'd be happy to do this job. And that's really the thing I would point to right away. On to the next one. What is the most awkward situation you encountered in an interview and how did you handle it? I'm going to do this from the employer perspective, not the job hunter perspective, because it's been too many years since I looked for a job. I think the most awkward thing I ever dealt with was a person who I asked, tell me about yourself too. And they started to go off in this long monologue that touched on it briefly at the beginning, but it seemed like they were trying to answer every question possible that they had ever heard on an interview. And 5 minutes into the conversation, I put up my hand like this. I then went like this for timeout and asked, do you remember my original question? And they said, no. That's probably the most awkward situation I've ever been in, where I just couldn't stand listening to this person any longer. And I had to bring it to an interruption. Most people have enough savvy not to do that, but this person didn't. So that's how I would answer that. Okay. Can you know within the first 5 minutes of interviewing someone if they will be a good hire or not? You can determine the not. You can determine if they're not qualified pretty quickly. But the idea that you can determine whether someone is qualified for most professions takes longer. After all, the first part of the interview is, so tell me about yourself and what you've been doing professionally, or walk me through your background, which to me, these are lazy interview questions. And let's say you're doing a deep dive with someone instantly, and you're skipping that question and you go, okay, what have you done with such and such? What have you done along these lines? Tell me about that. And within 5 minutes, maybe you can tell if someone is qualified, but you got to go in deeper because you're not going to make a hiring decision in 5 minutes, but you're going to make a rejection decision in 5 minutes. So can they do it? On the downside, yes, but on the upside, no. So I don't think it's possible to decide in 5 minutes to hire someone. I know I can decide in 5 minutes to reject someone. And let me just remind you, if you've got a question about job search, hiring, management, leadership, career change, or want advice about a particular workplace issue, put your question into chat. Normally, I'm able to get to it, okay? Next question is there such a thing, let's as being too prepared for an interview question and answer? Yes, um, but it's not what you think. I think it's important to be able to answer a question well, and thus your preparation. I've got a book on the subject. It's called The Right Answers to Tough Interview Questions. It's about 180 pages long. Almost all of it is about the right answers to tough interview questions. Um, and I'll just say, if you are so well prepared that you sound stiff and wooden, that is too prepared. There's a point where you should cross over to being able to sell what you're saying and deliver your answer in a way that shows self confidence in your position or in your answer without sounding like a bored, not bored, bored, board, wooden, stiff, dull. You can do if you can go over to the side of being able to rehearse the lines like an actor does and deliver them in ways where you can sound passionate about what you do. You can sell your lines like an actor does, that is able to convince you that they are the character that you're seeing on screen or on stage. Then no, it's not going to be an issue at all. But until then, you may be able to say the words, but not sell the lines. And selling the lines is what differentiates being the person who can say the words from the one who can sell the lines. Oh, I just noticed it got an overcast and my face looks a little bit dark. Let me take this off today and go on to the next question. So, when you know in advance that you're going to be one of several people interviewing for a manager position in your company, what can you do to stand out in your interview as the leading candidate? Now, at your own firm, it's different than if you're interviewing at another company. Because at your own firm, they've got some reviews that you've been involved with, some uh, annual reviews or more, some comments from your manager that make it different than a real interview at a different company. So, excuse me, the big thing that you can do that makes you stand out is the human being that you present yourself as being. Now, I apologize if you've heard me say this before. When firms hire internally or externally, they look for competence, self confidence, character, chemistry, maybe a little bit of charisma, because charismatic people always do better than non charismatics. They want to know that you care. They want to know, let's see now, that they can connect with you, because ultimately they want to trust you. Thus, let's go past the content or competence answer. The degree to which you demonstrate authority for what you do, that your manner oozes self-confidence, character, chemistry with the interviewer, which is a part of connection. So competence, self-confidence, character, chemistry, charisma. Charismatic people do better, right? That you connect, that you care, and ultimately connect with them because they want to trust. So focusing on the soft skills is different than what most people do. You obviously have to have the hard skills, but if they don't like you, they're not hiring you, right? If they think you're dull and boring, they're going to be less likely to hire you, right? So there's lots of minutia in the interview that's designed to help them connect with you. And thus focus on that in the course of your interview and not just simply on demonstrating your knowledge and competence. Go to the next one. Let's do this one. Let's use this. If an employee candidate told you that the reason why they haven't worked since October 2009, which if you're watching this show at some point in the future, that's a little less than 3 years from when you and I, when I'm recording this. And it's because it's been difficult to find a new job. Would that be a good enough reason, or would that be a red flag that would make you reject them? Reject them. I probably wouldn't interview them, is the truth of it. But let's say they got in the door because they were recommended by someone that I felt obligated to act on. But with that person, I would start off with, can I see a resume? And I'm seeing almost 3 years of out of work. I'm going, do you know anything about them being out of work for 3 years? Because, again, if I were a corporate hiring manager, I'm going, number one, they've forgotten a lot. Number two is, why have they been out of work for 3 years? Now, I can hear about an illness. Got it. I can hear about a family member. Got it. But we're talking about, they weren't able to find a new job and it's been difficult. Okay, we had COVID. I got it. But still, that's March 2020. And we're now talking 2022. And what was the trouble at the beginning? I understand the first year of COVID, and eventually lockdown started to end. People got vaccinated and they were able to find work. What's been going on? Listen to their answer. Ask them lots of questions. If you don't trust their answer, you might just simply say, I'm struggling with your answer because I can get the first few months because I can get from March 2020 until some point middle to latter part of 2021. Vaccination started at that point, things started to open up. I got that. But what about the period of time at the beginning? What about the time after that? What's been the problem from your vantage point? I haven't been able to find anything. A lot of jobs out there. I'm sure you've been seeing the stories about the Great Resignation, right? So, I would struggle, but I was always one of those interviewers where I wanted to hear what they had to say because sometimes there are things that I'm wrong about. So I'm tempted to say I'm not interested in them, but I need to know more. That's the truth of it. What are good questions to ask your interviewer? Number one, they are not your interviewer. It is the interviewer, not your interviewer. How much are you paying them to be your interviewer as though you own them, which you don't? So let's go to the point of what do you ask them? If you know my philosophy, you would have asked about the job at the beginning of the interview. So you can connect the dots between what you've done and what they care about when they ask, tell me about yourself. Let's assume you don't know my question. And by the way, if you order the Ultimate Job Interview Framework on my website in the courses dropdown, again, you can rent or buy. There's a framework there for interviewing that is fabulous. It's also available as a Kindle book or paperback on Amazon, but however you order it, it's a good book and good information to help you. Here are the questions other than, could you tell me about the job, that I would want to have you ask. And the first type of question is a clarifying question that might clarify something that's incongruent between what you understand the job is and what their questions are. And if there's nothing incongruent, I would then go to, let's say you hire me and I come on board. What would your expectations of me? What would your expectations be for me over the first 30, 60, 90 days? Then I would progress to, let's say you hire me and I come on board. It's a year from now, and you are thrilled with the decision you made to hire me. What will I have accomplished during that year that will make you think that way? Then I would progress to, Could you give me a sense of the timetable for next steps in this process? And finally, I would ask, is there anything that you've heard or not heard that makes you reluctant to think I'm qualified? Those are the basic 5 questions I encourage people to ask during interviews because it goes a long way toward having you understand what you need to know about the job to make a good decision and for them to give you a sense of the timetable, what their expectations will be for you, and lastly, what the steps are going to be like in the process to move things forward. So I'll just remind you, let me just come back here for a second. There we go. If you've got a question for me, put it into chat, and the questions can be about job search, hiring, management, leadership, or want advice about a particular workplace issue, or about a career change for that matter. Put it into chat, and I'll get to it. I'll also mention that people hire me for no BS career advice on all those topics. It can be we develop a relationship over time, as I have with a number of people where I work with them regularly to help them perform throughout their career in these areas. And there are people I help in their personal life too, but really it's about their career more than anything that I help with. Let's go to the next one. Oh, yeah, I remember this one. Oh, sorry. Did one wrong thing. Yeah. Why is it unethical for employees to formally accept a job offer only to later reject it for a better offer elsewhere when companies also rescind formal job offers before the employee has ever started? If companies aren't ethical, why should you be? Well, the real magic word here is unethical, followed by ethical. And I say that because when corporations take action, the real question's about not ethics, but legality. Is what they do legal or illegal? Unethical is one of those terms that companies, businesses use because it gets under people's skin when they do something that a company doesn't like. Why don't they like it? Simple, because you've left them in the lurch and now they have to do something different. So they use the term unethical because it's a charged term that bothers them. It gets them upset. They think it'll get you upset because it's a form of manipulation on their part. That's the truth of it. They're trying to manipulate you into changing your mind. What you're doing is unethical. You're a bad boy. You're a bad girl. And they think it works because it does work with a lot of people. So the long and the short of it is, why do they do it? Because it works. That's the fact of it. And you're right. They rescind offers because they do what's in their interest, and they should. And you should do what's in your interest, because if this isn't the right job for you, or you've gotten something better based upon your determination, why shouldn't you do it? They do it. Changing your mind isn't illegal. And like I said, they use unethical as one of those phrases to upset you so you feel badly. It's manipulation on their part. Don't fall for it. You're absolutely right. They're rescinding offers, or some firms are rescinding offers, and they're doing what's right for themselves and their business, just as you should. How do you deal with subordinates who need everything spelled out for them and those who lack the initiative to learn on their own? So let me deal with the first thing. first? The one who needs everything spelled out for them. So the answer is on that one, you ask them, so how do you think it should be done? I'm not sure. Let's walk it through together. How do you think it should be done? And they give you some, 2-word lame answer. Come on. What's the 2 words? Come on. Let's work on this together. I'm giving this to you as an assignment. What's the first thing you would want to do? Great. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? Good. No? Oh. So if you now start thinking about that, basically I'm taking them through a process where I'm making them do the work and thinking it through. And most of the time, they're going to give you the right answer. But what's happened to this person who needs to have everything spelled out is either they've been in the situation where they've been criticized for poor performance, or because they made a bad decision, and now they're gun shy. They don't want to be written up, criticized, what have you. So I'll just simply say they're in a position where they're concerned, they're upset, yada, yada, yada. Make them do the work by asking them questions. Now, the next part of this is those who lack the initiative to learn on their own. I'm going to treat this as 2 separate people or types of people and start off with, they're doing the minimum viable work. I bring them into my office and I'm saying, you're doing an okay job. I need someone who can do an excellent job. If you try, if you learn, if you work at learning and you come to me and you're not sure, I can't fault you for that. You're learning. But because you don't have initiative to learn, that's on you and that's causing a problem. I need you to start thinking more and not always coming to me for my opinion of something because you haven't taken the time to learn what you need to. So learn it, do the work, put in effort. It makes a difference. And if you don't, I'm sure I can find someone who will. Matter of fact, and I point to so-and-so in the group, I'm sure she'd be very happy to do it. And then shut up. They'll get the point. So that's what I would do in both cases. I hope that was helpful to you. I'm going to do 2 more questions. And this next one was a curious one for me. There we go. How can I let potential employers know during a job interview that I'm intersex? For those of you who don't know what that is, look it up. I'm not going to take the time now to explain it. I'll just start off with most people will talk about the fact that they don't think you should raise this as a subject. And to some degree, I agree with them. But you're asking this question because there's something that you need to communicate in order to make sure that you're going to be safe working there, is what I'm thinking that this is. In much the same way as gay and bi candidates want to work in organizations where they feel that they're not going to be persecuted or the subject of derisive humor. Well, I'm sure this might be the reason that you're asking the question. It reminds me of a woman I interviewed for the show who was terrific. And she's married to a woman. They've got kids. And going to the company picnic, the first year was a problem. And then the second year it wasn't. And people didn't understand that she was a gay woman and she was married and had kids. And she did good work. And you get the point. So you may want to bring this up in a certain way after they're ready to hire you. And once they make the offer, let's say it's HR that makes the offer, and you go, I'm prepared to say yes. I want to have one brief conversation with my manager. They'll say sure and arrange it. Anything I can help with? I'd like to have it with he or she. And at which point you raise the topic of being intersex. And say where it shows up is in humor about people who are whatever. I don't know what it is that would bother you, but you raise that subject with your future manager. And you say, if this is a problem for you, I thought I would raise this as a subject before I join because I don't want to make you feel awkward. It's part of my who I am. And I just want you to be aware of it. What you do with it, just make it a safe environment for me. If there's a sort of, sexist or homophobic humor, it bothers me. So I would appreciate it if you would intervene at those times where you know about it, and make it a place where I can feel comfortable. Again, one more question now, and it is, what does it mean when someone says they will call you if they want to hire you, but not if they don't want to hire you? The short version of this would be, don't call us, we'll call you if we're interested. That was the short version. The longer version is, if we want to hire you, we're going to call you. But if we don't call you, we don't want to hire you. Now, they may be frustrated because people call them all the time and go, hey, any news? Have you made a decision yet? I'm really interested. And, it's tedious for them. It interrupts them. It disturbs them. And remember, you're not the only person doing it. It's the last 20 people that they've interviewed who've been doing this too. So what it means is, don't call us, we'll call you if we're interested. It's that simple. So I hope you found this helpful. I'm Jeff Altman. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There's a ton there in the blog that'll help you. Plus, you can schedule time for a free discovery call, schedule time for a coaching session, find out about my courses, books, and guides. There's a ton there that'll help. Also, subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube. Download it as an app on Amazon. Subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, where it's a video podcast, Amazon Music, Google Play, anywhere you listen to podcasts, it's probably going to be there. Lastly, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.